Hi YouTube, this is Danielle, the domestic scientist, and in today's video I want to share my top 3 tips for keeping your YouTube video visually interesting. So let's get started. So as most of you know, you have to grab your viewers' attention within the first couple seconds of them playing your video, because so many people will click onto a video and then quickly decide that they don't want to see anymore after the first 15 seconds or so. So what you want to do in the opening of a video is to really give them something in the beginning that keeps them engaged. And a lot of what keeps people engaged is seeing lots of movement on camera. So when you think about television commercials, there are breaks in between shows that people want to see. But if you watch commercials, oftentimes there's lots of rapid movement on the screen that keeps people engaged, so that they're really tuned into what's going on the screen, and they're less likely to want to get up and do something else. Now, while it doesn't keep people chained to their seats, it certainly can make a lasting impression on the viewer. So I want to give you my first tip for how I really try to keep my viewers engaged, and that's by using intro videos. Now, you just saw my new intro. For those of you guys who have been following my channel, I did just release a new intro video for my channel, and I posted it to YouTube independently. Now, I had initially, when I started doing my YouTube videos, I was using an intro just at the beginning, and it was the same intro every time, just like our favorite television shows have their general openings, and we kind of get used to seeing it all throughout the season. But then what I started doing was I started making a separate intro for certain videos, and that really was dependent upon a couple of factors. So for example, if I had a table and I really wanted to have an intro for that table and everything, like what you're seeing on the screen now, this is a specific intro that I did for this table. So instead of playing my normal intro that I was doing for every video, I made a unique one for that particular table. And what it did was it showed you a little bit of the outcome of what you're going to see in the video. Now, there are 2 ways of doing these type of intros. You can do an intro like this and put it on the front of your video with just the music and all the transitions happening on the screen. Or you can do your voiceover when you talk about what your video is actually going to be about while the music is playing and people are viewing your final products. Now, one of the reasons why you want to do an intro in the beginning, if you can, is that when it comes to decorating or creating something, oftentimes people want to see what you're going to make so that they know that it's worth seeing you do. So, for example, if I'm going to do some sort of a DIY or decorating video, sometimes people want to see that they actually like the final outcome before they learn how to do something. Because why would you want to watch somebody teach you how to do something if you don't actually like the product that they're producing? Now, for me, I found it a little bit challenging because I tend to think of making my YouTube videos in terms of a progression. I like to start from step 1 all the way to the end and then show you the big, final product at the end. Whereas what I am starting to learn with YouTube is that there are a lot of instances where people want to see the ending first and then they want to see you go back from the beginning. So I think it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around this whole spoiler mentality on YouTube. I don't recommend that if you don't want to do something like that, that you just do all of your videos like that. I think if it's something that you're interested in trying, do it for 1 or 2 of your videos and kind of watch your analytics and see how people respond to doing these dynamic openers. So like, for example, I have this quick intro and it keeps your eye engaged, but all I'm doing is displaying a desk. And I use this particular intro, and I think I actually put this one in the middle of a video because I'm going to give a product review of this particular desk. And so I want the person to be engaged, and you have to think that if a person's just going to show a desk on a screen, it can be pretty boring and you can lose a person's attention quite easily. So I use this intro to really keep your eye moving, to keep you engaged, and to make you feel more wowed about this desk as I'm telling you more about it. So if you don't want to kind of give the whole thing away and do a spoiler, you can really do a little bit more of a teaser. So right now I'm showing you an intro that I did for a tiered tray decorating video. Now this was like a coffee bar collaboration, and instead of showing the whole finished product at once, I just showed you certain clips and corners of it, and I kept the screen moving very quickly, and so you didn't really have enough time to focus and piece it all together, but you saw enough of it to say, hey, you know, I definitely want to see how she did this, where she got these different items from, just enough to let a person know that the video is worth watching. Now that being said, it's important to know that you want to give something that's moving quickly so that people are engaged, but not so fast that it's a little bit dizzying. So the little intro that I am using on the screen now was the first one that I did for this video, but I felt like the transitions were so fast that it was so difficult to keep up, and it was a little bit dizzying. So especially if you have an audience that's a little bit older, you want to be mindful of those type of things when you're doing your camera work and working on your intros. So you want a slower, more comfortable speed. And so this intro that I did here, this was my channel intro for quite some time, and this one was a lot more comfortable. There was enough interest on the screen with moving objects, but it was still slow enough where you could read it. So the second thing that I do to try to keep my videos interesting is to really take a look at the clip speed. What I'm showing you now is just a clip of me doing a DIY video. It's actually not a DIY, it's called the Get It Done collaboration, and this is where I'm actually removing tarnish from some brass pieces and some silver pieces that I have in my home. So if you've ever polished silver or done any kind of tarnish remover, you can know that you use this chemical, you let it sit for a little bit, it helps to start breaking down the tarnish, and then you have to continue to rub. So now this is a very repetitive process, and it took me over an hour to clean up both of the pieces that I'm showing here in this video. But my video was not an hour long because that would be incredibly boring with me doing repetitive motions. And because when you're using something like a tarnish remover, the cream or the powder that you're using starts off white, but then over time it tends to get darker as it's lifting the tarnish. And so that's something that you would want to see on some type of a time-lapse video. You don't want to sit there and have your audience waiting and waiting and waiting just to start seeing, you know, the gradual change of color. So what you want to do in an instance like this is adjusting your clip speed. Now most video editing software do have the ability to slow down or to speed up your actual output of video so that you can cover the exact same amount of material in a much shorter amount of time. So if you look at my hands right now, they're moving at turbo speed. I think this was like 15 times the speed of the original video on this section, and so you can really see my hands going at it, and it really conveys how much work it takes to remove tarnish. Now for a video like this, I could have shot the beginning and just showed me applying the powder and then applying the cream and then rubbing it for a few minutes, and then I could have cut to a finished product where it's done or halfway done. But I really want you to be able to get an idea of how much rubbing is involved and how much working in to those cracks and crevices you have to do to really lift the tarnish out. And because I knew that as the tarnish was being removed that the cream would start turning darker, I wanted the person to really feel like they got the full experience of what it takes to clean tarnish without having to sit there through the entire process. So that's why I did this clip speed. So yes, it looks a little bit weird with my hands going this fast, but I find that this is one of the best ways, especially when it comes to DIY videos, to really help the audience stay interested. Now, the other thing that I think is helpful for something like this is using a really good upbeat music along with it so that the person is engaged, the music is keeping them interested, they're watching you, they see you make progress, and then they feel like they're in it with you. And so for me, I think that is what made this video a little bit more successful. And then I did try to come in and show you a little bit of the progress along the way. So right here, I took the speed back to a normal output. This is exactly how fast I was moving with the camera. I slowed it down just a little bit in a couple places where I really wanted to zoom in on some of those key areas where the tarnish was building up. And that way I gave you some faster speeds, and then I slowed it down a little bit, and then I sped it up again because now I'm trying to remove all of this cream. And then I'm showing you kind of the dirty rag so you can see how much tarnish has come up during the process. So I want to make sure that the person is able to feel like they understand the process of removing tarnish and kind of what to expect without feeling bogged down with all the details. So that is something I think is very helpful for DIY videos. Now, I would point out that when you're doing adjusted clip speeds, that you do have to separate your audio and your visual tracks so that your voice doesn't go and start sounding like a chipmunk as well. So this is why I do voiceovers for these type of videos. Now, when it comes to how fast to do it, sometimes what I do is I go ahead and record the voiceover first, which lets me know how much time I need to explain the process. And then I go through and I adjust the clip speed so that it ends when my voiceover is finished. So oftentimes with these clip speed adjustment settings, they'll tell you the original length of the clip, and then as you adjust the speed, they'll tell you what the new length of the clip will be. So I kind of use those two to align it to make sure that when I'm finished talking, that all of my visuals are over, to help it align so that I'm going at a comfortable speed along with what's on the screen. So the next thing I want to talk about is adjusting your camera angles when you are doing your YouTube videos. So this particular video that I did was probably one of my favorites because I used the most camera angles when I came to set the table. So here you can see I've got an overhead shot. My husband is standing on top of a ladder, and you see me adding the charger plates onto the placemat from up above. And now you're seeing from the top down that we're seeing kind of how the table is looking. And now I'm going to start adding other items to the table. And so every time I add something to the table, we tend to switch the angle a little bit. And that way the person doesn't really get bored. They don't know where you're going to come from next and what you're going to put down. Now you can certainly set up a tripod and walk around the table and decorate. I have done that several times myself, honestly, because it is a time saver. If I'm doing multiple videos back to back, I think that that is a very effective way of using your time. However, when I do have a little bit more time on my hands, or if I'm doing a bigger, more featured table, I do want to rethink those camera angles. Now, that being said, this is something that sometimes you might really need help with. If I'm filming by myself, then I tend to do more of the tripod work. Now here you can see that the angle is completely different, and I'm just adding plates. And now here the cameraman is actually moving with me as I'm adding things to the table. So I'm adding a chili pepper and a bitter gourd on top of the place setting. But I don't have too much cameraman following me because that can make a dizzying type of video. So you want to do some things that are interesting. So I added my salt and pepper mini tagine shakers over here, and then I moved the camera and added something else. And so I made it a little bit more interesting than just holding the camera still and plopping down a tagine on the table. And again, we switched angles because now I'm coming in to add the silverware. If you really think about it, laying a piece of silverware on the table isn't that fun. So you want to make sure that your camera work can kind of help. And when you pair it with a nice upbeat music, it kind of helps it go a little bit better. And when you're doing your voiceover, you want to make sure that you're smiling and that you sound enthusiastic about the things that you're saying, because that helps the person to stay interested in it as well. And I think it helps with a little bit of a build up. So now that they've seen you do so many different things from different angles, they are ready for the big reveal and to kind of see that final look and how everything came together. So not only is changing up your camera angles important while you're creating something and building something, but that final display is important as well. Even though a person has seen it from different angles in the development stage, they do want to get a good handle of what it looks like all together from a number of different angles. Now, this particular footage that you're looking at now is a footage from my lemon poppy seed French toast video. So Pepperidge Farm had released some lemon poppy bread, and I made French toast with it, and I made some homemade lemon syrup. Now, because I made this homemade syrup, it's very important that you see me pouring syrup. Any other time that I was doing a French toast video, yeah, I'd probably pour some syrup, but I don't know that I would want to put so much emphasis on it if I hadn't made the syrup. So when you have something that you want to highlight, you make, especially if you've created it in your channel, you definitely want to highlight it in the final product reveal. Now, also, I sprayed some whipped cream on this French toast, and then I also sprinkled some poppy seeds on it as well. I made sure to show it from different angles as I'm working. Now, this one is a little bit harder because the French toast is still warm. I put the whipped cream and the syrup on there, so the whipped cream starts to melt down a little bit. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to finish this shot before the whipped cream really started to melt, but I do think it came out pretty well. Now, this is other footage of a different table. This is my crystal clear tablescape, and I think I did a pretty good job on this one in terms of camera angles for the final product as well. I want to make sure that I show the table from multiple angles. You want to go from left to right. You want to go up and down. You want to go down and up. You want to go right to left. You want to make sure that you zoom in and zoom out. Those things are important. But you also want to think of the different levels that you set the camera. So when it comes to the levels of shooting, I will shoot from the ground up. I will shoot from eye level. I will shoot standing up, and then I will shoot aerial shots. So I will try to make sure that I have different levels of movement. And when I'm on top, like if I'm standing on a ladder and I'm shooting down at my table, I'll zoom in, I'll zoom out, I'll move to the right, I'll move to the left, and I'll move up and down and up from a ladder. I will also do that sitting at the table. I will do that when I'm standing, and I will also do that on the ground. Now, some of the shots I wind up not using because they don't always look good, but I will take at least 30 to 45 second clips from those different levels, and then shooting multiple angles, and then I'll just go and add those clips into video editing software, and then I'll break them up so that I'm not zooming in on something 5 and 6 times back to back, but I will zoom in, I'll pan to the left, I'll pan to the right, I'll go up and down, I'll zoom out, and then I'll do that from different levels to give a good mix of the final product. So just a quick recap before we wrap this up. I try to keep my videos interesting by adding intros and teaser content to my videos to keep it moving and to have lots of dynamic scene transitions on the screen. I adjust my playback for a lot of my clips to speed it up or slow it down as I need to, so that I keep my audience engaged, especially when I'm doing repetitive motions or doing processes that take a long time. And I make sure to shoot all of my final products and my videos from multiple angles as much as possible. Now I'd like to hear from you. Leave a comment in the box below and let me know what you think of my 3 tips today. And if you are a YouTube content creator and you have something else that you want to add, I am always open to hearing new things and finding new angles. So be sure to leave a comment in the box below. Now, today's video is a part of a YouTube collaboration called MasterMind Influencer. And the purpose of this collaboration is to share tips and tricks for how to grow your YouTube channel. And it's really great for content creators who are in that growing and learning phase. The host for this collaboration is Lady Phoenix of Really Good Living. The co-hosts are at Penny's Place, Grandma Sandy, Creatively MsMe with Stephanie, Renters Live Luxury by Ann, and ditzy ditz. I'll have a link to each of the host channels in my description box below, as well as a link to the collaboration playlist. Be sure to check out these other content creators and the collaboration playlist to get more tips and tricks for improving your YouTube experience. This is Danielle, the Domestic Scientist. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.